Good afternoon and welcome to the CNBC Africa special focused on the city of eThekwini's economic recovery plan from COVID-19. It is a more than R500 million plan that aims to support business, safeguard jobs and protect the livelihoods of its citizens. KwaZulu-Natal, like the rest of South Africa, is grappling with a rising number of coronavirus cases and is the fourth most infected province in the country. It's against this backdrop that we unpack the city's economic recovery plan, and you can follow the conversation with us by making use of all the hashtags that you do see appear below your screen. Before we get into the discussion, let's first take a look at the background of the plan.
With its economic growth projections severely altered by the COVID-19 pandemic, the eThekwini Municipality, in collaboration with private business, has developed an economic recovery action plan of R586 million to alleviate the economic and social impact. A further socio-economic relief fund has also been established through a R40 million contribution by the city and R350,000 by the business sector to date. The plan prioritises safeguarding jobs, supporting township and informal economy, supporting tourism and industrialisation programme, and facilitating the city's share of national government support. Interventions comprise of a R29 million revenue contribution, including development, application fee waivers, R3.6 million informal traders support, including a rental holiday, a R3 million recategorisation of B&Bs from commercial rates to residential rates, and a R26 million investment incentive, including free filming permits. A capital expenditure of R485 million aimed at unlocking private sector developments of up to R10 billion also forms part of the plan. COVID-19 has also had a negative impact on the tourism industry. Thus, increment funding from R250,000 to R500,000 has been allocated to community tourism organisations to market their areas and create new tourism packages. The municipality is also lobbying for a R30 billion provision for eThekwini small business from national government. This plan is to ensure that the municipality remains financially viable while investing in the economy, which creates jobs and prosperity.
Now that we have the background, I'd like to welcome my panelists to help us unpack this and more. His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Mxolisi Kaunda, Palesa Pili, CEO of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Moses Tembe, co-chair of the KZN Growth Coalition. Mr. Mayor, Ms. Pili and Mr. Tembe, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to the show. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to begin with you first because it has been around 6 weeks since the Economic Recovery Plan was first tabled. Can you give us an update of the key areas in which the plan wants to focus on, and also how much has been achieved so far?
Thank you very much, Fifi, and good afternoon to our fellow panelists, our viewers at home. Indeed, it is our honor to be part of this august platform to discuss eThekwini's economic recovery plan during and beyond COVID-19. Negative impact of this pandemic on our city's economy is staggering, and we are aware of the fact that this probably will get worse before it gets better. However, we are encouraged by the fact that all social partners in our city are singing from the same hymn book, insofar as economic recovery beyond COVID-19 is concerned. As social partners, we agree that the pace and extent of economic recovery will depend on the meaningful collaborations among all of us. The existing recovery plan is as a result of this collaboration and our commitments to its implementation and testament to the prestige in which we hold our people and our city. We know economic recovery will not be an event, but a long and arduous process. As a social partners, we are committed as well to this noble cause because we know that our failure will spell disaster not only for our city, but also for the economy, which contributes 10% to the GDP of our country, but the millions of the people who look to us for direction and for their livelihood. So here is our plan in a nutshell. Firstly, eThekwini Municipality, in partnership with private sector, has developed an economic recovery plan of 586 million rands to alleviate the economic and social impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The plan prioritizes safeguarding jobs, supporting townships and informal economy, rural economies, supporting tourism and industrialization program, and facilitating the city's share of national government support. The plan also raised interventions comprise of a 29 million revenue contribution, including development application fee waivers, 3.6 million informal traders supporting, including a rental holiday of about 3 million rands, recategorization of the B&Bs from commercial rates to residential rates, and 26 million rands investment incentives, including free filming permits in our city. A capital expenditure of about 485 million aimed at unlocking private sector developments of up to 10 billion rands also forms part of our plan. Furthermore, in order to address this dire situation within the construction and infrastructure development sectors in our city, we have prioritized getting the following 7 catalytic projects in construction within 10 months. Those are following: Midway Crossing, brickworks that is happening around the city, Keystone next phase, Rivertown projects, Claywood Logistics Park, Clover Queensberg, Whetstone Business Park. The COVID-19 has severely altered the city's economic growth projection and negatively impacted on the tourism industry. There has increment funding for 250,000 to 500,000 being allocated to community tourism organizations to market their areas and new tourism packages to attract more investment in our city. The municipality is also lobbying for a 30 billion rand provision for a small business from national government. We are hoping that, we are looking forward that the national government will intervene in this regard. Radical economics, socio-economic transformation is a key pillar for building an inclusive economy and society, which will lead to an inclusive economy that serves all people of our city. As a city, will pursue radical socio-economic transformation, not as a means to exclude certain sections of our society and community, but at a mean which also means to accommodate more people who have been in the periphery of the city's economy. As part of this plan, we are also considering the following: setting aside more COVID-19 procurement for cooperatives linked to government warehouse procurement, ensuring COVID-19 procurement transformation. This includes for food parcels, access to procurement opportunities to SMMEs, PPEs that are needed by the employees, sanitizers, and detergents for micro enterprises and informal traders. The city will accelerate payments to small businesses and companies within 7 days, as well as issuing of a new tenders. This plan is also to ensure that the municipality remains financially viable while investing in the economy, which creates jobs, prosperity. Working together, we believe that with our partners, the city leadership will monitor the financial health of the municipality and will respond appropriately to the customers as the pandemic unfolds. Furthermore, to expand our ability to achieving more on our road to recovery, the city has further established a socio-economic relief fund through a 40 million rand investment by the city and 350,000 by the business sector to date. Business and staff are urged to contribute to support these relief efforts. Those that would like to contribute to the relief fund can contact Mr. Oswald Zama on oswald.nzama@durban.gov.za. In relation to support to our businesses in the city, the COVID-19 pandemic is having a significant and unprecedented effect that disrupted the manufacturing sector in our city across the globe as well. These repercussions have resulted in reduced demand, economic uncertainty, increased cost, and is likely to spark unprecedented global recession. As part of the city's response and recovery package for COVID-19, the municipality has supported local manufacturing through targeted cluster and sector support initiatives, which have yielded positive results so far. During the last few months, the city has seen rapid action taken by government as well as regional authorities to support businesses suffering from high cost without at most any sales under the current crisis that we are faced with. The municipality has also introduced platforms through cluster and sector support programs to allow the manufacturing industry to come together and identify critical issues facing the sectors and attend to business needs, as well as the difficulties that they are confronted with. The municipality is the primary grant funder for our 4 manufacturing clusters, supporting some of the largest productive sectors in the city in local economy, namely the Durban Automotive Cluster, Durban Chemical Cluster, eThekwini Furniture Cluster, eThekwini Footwear and Leather Cluster, and KZN Clothing and Textile Clusters. Other sectors initiatives include eThekwini Maritime, Ocean Economic Cluster, Fair Food Foundation, Business Process Enabling South Africa, KZN, eThekwini Materials Recovery, Durban Green Corridors, as well as Smart Exchange. When we tabled our budget policy statement early this year, and now in May, we also committed ourselves as a city to develop and implement a business industrial strategy to reposition our city as a global port city. Other key interventions we are also going to be undertaking during this period and beyond is to boost our economy and create jobs during the period, include the development and implementation of the mayoral jobs and skills war room that will focus on the following: localization of business opportunities, development of vibrant township and rural economy. Our mission is to build a social solidarity in all sectors of economic production, where social enterprises and cooperatives play a very important role in the economy of our city. Ladies and gentlemen, a great deal to township business have been negatively impacted by the COVID pandemic. In order to support cities' efforts, our entities are working together to identify township business needs, develop action plans, and collaborate with industry stakeholders, including experts, to continue to support beyond COVID-19 pandemic. The plan is to shift township businesses into digital space, both during and COVID-19, in order to allow these businesses to transact and perform their operations online in a safe and secure environment. 3 townships have been identified to pilot this initiative. The townships are as follows: Umlazi, Ketomena, and Wamash. Some of these areas have been chosen because there already have been facilities to support the proposed interventions. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the many efforts the government will be undertaking to revive the economy of our city, attract investment and preserve jobs. We want to reiterate that collaboration with all sectors of our society is key in achieving the objectives set out in this plan. Our own advantage is that the city has got two seasons, and that is summer and the other summer. Thank you very much.
This is true, and I must admit that I am missing the summer and the other summer too, Mr. Mayor. But I'd like to bring in our other speakers now as well, Palesa and Moses. And Palesa, just to begin with you, because it was on the 18th of May that the city first tabled this economic recovery plan. And I'd just like to get a sense from business what your experience of the plan has been and what role you have played in also actioning some of the outcomes.
Thank you very much, Fifi. Good afternoon to yourself, and a special good afternoon to our mayor, Councillor Mxolisi Kaunda, and fellow panelist, Mr. Moses Tembe from the KZN Growth Coalition. And really special thank you as well to the mayor for ensuring that he does lead from the front and ensure that in critical areas of strategy and planning, he ensures that the business is part of discussions with the city to ensure that we have a well thought out discussion and there's proper input as well from the business community. As the Durban Chamber, I'd like to start by just sharing who we're representing, because it plays a very important part in terms of how we're commenting and the areas that we believe that need to be also taken into consideration. So the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry is the second oldest chamber in Africa. We are 165 years old, but we are the largest metropolitan chamber in the continent, in Africa. Our membership comprises of 350 formal businesses, and within these formal businesses, there is a corporate membership, there is medium businesses within our city and beyond, and as well small, micro, medium enterprises. Over and above that, we also represent 54 informal sector organizations. We took this decision about 2 years ago that to make sure that we have an inclusive economy, it's very, very important that the informal economy is also represented by the likes of ourselves, such as the Durban Chamber. Coming back now just to comment on the city's economic recovery plan. As the Chamber, we welcome the recovery plan, and we believe that it is very practical for majority of the sectors that our mayor mentioned that I'm not going to go into detail with. However, an area that I would like to just put special focus on and more detail on is our mayor did mention that there's a lot of good things that they're planning for the township. But we would like to see, as the Durban Chamber, more relief focus in the township and informal economy, especially now during the times of COVID. And we would like to see these programs to be executed with speed and transparency, which will be a very, very clear, which will also have very clear sight on the right channel to redeem the funds that this market so much needs. Most of the plans that the city has shared with us is majority of them are short-term plans. And as the Durban Chamber, would like to see more long-term plans, which will be very, very beneficial for the recovery of our economy. As the Durban Chamber, both ourselves and our members would like to be part of the recovery plans so that we ensure that the plans put forward the industry-specific challenges that we're faced in with, and what we would like to see in the plans that will be more beneficial to the business community. The good thing that we have is through the leadership of our mayor, Councillor Mxolisi Kaunda, the business community, the chamber has got very good relations with the city. We do need to enhance more collaboration, especially when coming to things like the plans, to ensure that proper consultation with, like I mentioned earlier, or not just ourselves, but the businesses operating in these sectors feel included in the plans and have the proper buy-in to see that ultimately the plans which will ultimately affect the future of their businesses. There's been a couple of engagements that we've been doing with government, both through the leadership of our mayor, that we've taken to the province under the leadership of our MEC for Economic Development, MEC Nomusa Dube-Ncube, as well as the leadership of our Premier, where there's a lot of engagements that we've had with the business communities, sector specific, to make sure that the business communities give input on the regulations of the different industries that are affected by lockdown, and also the voices of the businesses in KZN are heard. So we would like to commend that and really appreciate the support that we've actually received from the mayor through to the leadership of the province, to show that they really want to make sure that there's as minimal impact as possible to our economy and try and preserve as many jobs as we can. And that's my input. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Palesa. And Moses, to bring you in here, because when the plan was first tabled, a couple of days after, there was the CEO forum where business got to engage with the provincial government around what had been put on the table. And I remember that the views of the Growth Coalition at the time was that the economy needed to be opened up a lot quicker than was the case. We are opened up to a certain degree, much more than we were previously. But I'd like to get your sense of, how this plan has been actioned, particularly as we are more open, operating currently at this advanced level 3 stage.
Thank you very much. Greetings to you, and special greetings to our mayor and fellow panelists. As business, we've always seen the municipality as a catalyst and an enabler. To that end, we've created a strong partnership between business and the municipality, and of course, other social partners, labor and the civil society. To that end, we've looked into the size of the problem that is facing our country and of course our municipality. You're looking at around 300,000 to 400,000 of people losing income. You're looking at 42% of unemployment, and the number is increasing. We have as much as 20 billion rands worth of projects which have been put on hold as a result of this pandemic. And if you look at the national economy, you can see that there is a sharp and deep economic contraction. To that end, as business working with the municipality and other social partners, we thought that we needed to prioritize a few areas. One of such areas was to support, stabilize, and revive businesses urgently. And I am using the word urgently because it is an operating word in this context. We realized that there is no time now for all talk and no action. So we are moving very urgently to ensure that the businesses are moving to full capacity utilization. That's first. Secondly, we thought that we needed to create very strong and revitalized district economies. People must thrive irrespective of where they live. We also focused on the rural economy development. As you can see, we are blessed with vast areas of arable land. There is a widespread agreement that there is a primary indirect consequence of this pandemic with the prevalence of hunger and food insecurity. So we have put in place plans to revitalize the rural economy, especially focusing on agriculture and agro-processing. And to that end, we are revisiting the spatial economic plans and transforming it and aligning it to the challenges that are facing us as a country. We have also realized that we, as the mayor indicated, there is a need of creating an extraordinary environment for the construction and infrastructure development. It is obvious that we must accelerate the implementation of projects. Having said that, we also thought that in particular, we certainly have to focus on the development of our people You spoke about the education earlier. We are in full consultation with the universities to ensure that the type of education that is coming out of the technology institutions and universities is aligned to business. And going back to the mayor, we have impressed heavily upon the mayor to ensure that we aspire to achieve institutional excellency. The municipality has to be professionalized in order to give it a capacity and capability to meet all of these challenges. And obviously, we are also working very, very hard to ensure that we create the efficient infrastructure and looking at areas like ICT to ensure that there is global connectivity and improve our connectivity with the global players that we have invited to work with us to take our city forward.
And as the mayor did say, Mr. Tembe, that process of going forward is not going to be an event. It is going to be a very long process, and things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. We are seeing the number of cases spike dramatically here in South Africa. It is quite worrying, in fact. And all the plans that have been discussed so far are premised on a healthy citizenry, which is actually pillar one of your plan, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to bring you back in here just to talk about the state of health. It would be remiss of me not to mention what South Africans watched on their television screen yesterday, and that was the protests that were happening in the city. And underlining those protests, Mr. Mayor, from my understanding, is that it's fear. People are afraid. They're seeing their loved ones being infected. They are afraid of losing their loved ones, particularly our frontline soldiers being the healthcare workers. So I'd just like to understand what the city is planning by way of ramping up its interventions in the health space and the areas of collaboration for business to come in here to strengthen the city's fight against COVID-19.
Yes, thank you very much, Fifi, and thanks for the input from the panelists. They are really confirming that we are working together in the city. And what is central to our own activities as a city is collaborations, because we have a firm belief and conviction that if we work alone without involving the broader society, business, and many other stakeholders, we won't be able to defeat this particular invisible enemy that we are faced with. But we are, of course, making a lot of interventions which are pertaining to issues of provision of services like water, because we know that the strategy to kill and reduce the spread of this disease is to ensure that the high levels of hygiene are observed, ensuring that sanitizers are also utilized to ensure that people, they disinfect the areas where they are, including the issues to accommodate the homeless who have been out there in numbers in our streets. But today we have brought them together in our special shelters so that we are able to take care of them. But some of the interventions which are also aimed at dealing with the challenges presented by COVID-19 is the opportunities that are also presented by COVID-19, because we also have a firm belief that if we as a city and its citizens, we can really leverage on opportunities on the new normal, because we need innovations, we need people who will bring new things, the game changers in the whole aspect of fighting this COVID virus that is confronting us. So those are the things that we are looking forward in working with many partners that also entail the issue on the establishment of our own eThekwini Economic Council, which will be composed of the academia, the business, civil society, the labor, because we want to sign a social compact where we'll all have a shared vision of bringing this city to the position where it belongs, because we know we are a port city, but it doesn't reflect that. So we need to ensure that we resuscitate our economic activities, sustaining jobs that are already there, but also creating a conducive environment for new businesses to come in the city and invest so that we can be able to be responsive to the aspirations of our people.
You're certainly right, sir. And I mean, one of the big opportunities that are being presented by COVID-19 right now is the opportunity to localize more. I recall that at the a couple of months after our national interventions were put in place, the Solidarity Fund had actually said that over 90% of the protective personal equipment that South Africa had received was imported. That speaks to a big opportunity for the local manufacturing sector to potentially fill the gap. And Palesa, I want to bring you in here and just to get an understanding from business on the ground in the manufacturing space. We have a problem with health. We have got excess or rather a lack of sufficient equipment. What is the appetite on the ground from business in Durban to perhaps fill the gap? And also, what environment could the government potentially create to make it easier for them to do so? Because it can't all be charity, unfortunately.
Yes, true. So from the business side, of course, one of the things that we've been very, very much involved in terms of promoting localization, especially talking to manufacturing, not just the equipment, is that of clothing and textiles, where, I mean, majority of our retailers that we have, and, you know, some of them are members of the chamber, they import quite a lot of the products that they actually sell on the retail space. And some of the opportunities that we've actually identified that is ensuring that we enable the local manufacturers of these products to actually make them here in Durban so that they can actually sell them into the retailers. And what's important about that is that being the chamber, we've got the relationship with these particular retailers because most of them are the members of the Durban Chamber. So making sure that we are there to introduce and transition some of these small businesses and making sure that we introduce their products and services into the retail. And of course, when you're talking about manufacturing, one of the things that we're very, very passionate about around manufacturing, even technology itself, is that of encouraging the youth of our city and the province to really, really start focusing and looking at opportunities to become more innovative. You spoke about the masks and protective gear. That is not as innovative as what we would like to see. We would like to see more innovation from our youth that they can take into both the health sector and the bigger manufacturing side. An example that I'll just make for you is innovations from one of our members, Vodacom, that came up with a health platform where members of Discovery Health, for example, instead of going to see a doctor during this COVID-19, you're able to have a conversation directly with the doctor over the phone, and the doctor gives you the prescription, sends it to you again on the phone, and you're able to either send it through electronically to your pharmacy for them to deliver, or you're able to go to the pharmacy and get a quick prescription. So we're really looking out. We're trying to motivate and encourage youth and businesses out there. Look at other innovations beyond what we have right now, and let's expand a little bit more. And technology has really played a very, very key role that we'd like to see more innovations coming out of.
Mm-hmm. And another area in which we definitely need a lot more innovation coming out of is the education space, because I'm sure all of us saw the supplementary budget that was presented by the finance minister just last week. And the key areas of focus right now for South Africa's economy is strengthening our health sector, strengthening our education sector, and making sure that we have sufficient relief to help those who have lost their income. Mr. Temba, just to bring you in here right now, because you said that business was discussing some forms of interventions that could be made in the education space. What are they, particularly as we still have a lot of parents that are concerned about sending their children back to school as the number of cases are rising? But we have an opportunity to leverage technology, but that technology needs to be done such that a child in a suburban area can get the same access as a child in a rural or a township area. There shouldn't be this digital divide. So help me understand how business is thinking of plugging the education gap and perhaps what they need from the provincial government to ensure that this is actioned successfully.
Thank you. I think this is a very important issue that you are raising. As business, we've been very, very active in the area of supporting education. For example, if you go to some of the schools in the northern areas of KwaZulu-Natal, I'm now talking in the rural areas, we've had a number of companies that have gone all out to ensure that those students are given the right tablets and equipment to begin to study from their home bases whilst they were still on lockdown. There is one school which is headed by Dr. Mtabela, way in Ndumo. You're talking 500-600 kilometers away from Durban, which is the heart of KZN. That school, as we speak, it is up to date with other schools which traditionally are situated in the more privileged areas. One of the things that this pandemic has also laid bare is the inequality that exists in our society and the need to bridge that gap. That school in Ndumo might be an exception, but it is true that by and large you have many schools, situated in areas that are regarded as privileged in the same South African context, where you find kids that are up to date with their work, whilst really other schools in the townships and the rural areas are backing. But as business, I wouldn't mention the name of the companies that have come forward with the equipment. We are working very, very hard with the Department of Education here to bridge the gap.
All right, I would like to now focus on two key areas. Number one, tourism, but also the plans that the city has for infrastructure development. But Mr. Mayor, let's talk about that summer and the other summer that you referred to at the start of the conversation. Fortunately, I'm wearing a color that hopefully reflects the good times that you're talking about. Now, tourism is the lifeblood of the KZN economy, and it is also the most hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen a slight reopening of the tourism sector, but for sure, it is nowhere near the kind of activity that your city is used to and the revenues that your city is used to. You did mention that some relief had been portioned for the sector, but of course, we know right now that $1 billion, in fact, 500 billion in COVID-19 times is certainly not enough. Mr. Mayor, talk to us about the latest support interventions for tourism, but more importantly, where you see the private sector really coming in to help government in helping the companies and also helping the livelihoods that have been lost as a result of the lockdown.
Yes, indeed, tourism has received a big strain during COVID-19 in the economy, and also employs a lot of people in the sector. So therefore, it's important that in our own recovery plans, we also put more focus in terms of rejuvenating the sector so that it attracts more investments. But we understand that during COVID-19, we as a city, we are also engaged on the visual marketing of our own city, because we want to market the city so that immediate COVID-19 leaves us, people also get attached to what Durban provides. And we as a city, we are also happy with the interventions that people have been receiving, including that those who are in township bringing about new ideas in the tourism sector and new packages. We have increased the amount of the support that we are providing to them. We are also dealing with the B&Bs, as we have alluded to that fact. But what also is important for us is to create a conducive environment for the sector to grow in our city. That also includes the manner in which we are selling the city outside there to those who haven't been in our city, creating the visual messages that are very attractive in nature to showcase what is it that we have as the city. moving forward. But we are also appealing to the youth, because young people, they are always creative and bring about innovation. We are calling upon them to say, during this period, here is the opportunity, bring ideas, then we as a city, together with business, we can support those ideas. But what injection that we have also put in the strategy is to ascertain that we also re-engineer the procurement of the city so that it starts reacting positively to the areas which have been neglected in relation to tourism activities, to ensure that we include those communities, especially deep rural areas, to be part of the city's tourism strategy that we are implementing. BNBs and other partners that are really doing business in our city have been coming forward, receiving the interventions and the packages that we have created for them. And we are happy that even the rates in which we'll be charging those who are running BNBs will then be converted into residential instead of charging them with the commercial rates. So that on its own, it shows the commitment from ourselves as a city that we are indeed prepared to support all sectors, especially tourism is one of the key sectors that can sustain many jobs that have been created in the city. And we are looking forward that during our own conversations and deliberations in our economic council that will be launching, that economic stream of tourism will get more support, especially taking advantage as well of the King Shaka Airport that is accommodating many visitors who come and visit our own city. So that advantage will also add the value in terms of the opportunities that are already there.
And Mr. Mayor, I want to come back to you in just a moment, because we've got a couple of questions that are coming through from the viewers that are watching this webinar. Thanks so much for your input. But Lisa, just to bring you in here right now, because you have expressed your concerns around the reopening of the tourism sector. I imagine that business is keeping watch of the number of increasing cases in the coronavirus, and is also keeping watch in the fact that government has, I think, done as much as it can, given the environment, to reopen some of the sector. Is it enough? I mean, has it been impactful, the reopening of business travel, for instance? Or do you think that there's a case to be made to look at domestic travel right now? And how would this be done responsibly? Yeah.
So I just want to make start off to say, I mean, first of all, as the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we truly support the vision of our President Cyril Ramaphosa on and appreciate what he's doing on his decision to make sure that there's a clear, delicate balance between lives of our citizens and also workers of our businesses, and also the livelihoods, which needs to really be taken into consideration. So, I mean, from our side, when we look at, especially now starting with the tourism side, we would like, really, we're calling on the government, especially, the National Command Council, to please re-look at the decision that has been made on leisure travel. So currently, with the business travel only allowed, what we're finding is, even now within our city, majority of the hotels are not opened, they're closed, because business travel is not that lucrative. And the input that we're getting back again, so a lot of hotels and B&Bs are not open, by the way. And the input that we're also getting quite a lot from our members is that, when they look at the impact of COVID-19 and also to try and curb the spread, it would be easier for them to manage leisure travelers. I mean, if I was, for example, if you, Fifi, you were to travel with your family, you live together in the same house, you go to a hotel, if it's the four of you guys, you sit together, and it's easier for the hotels to help manage the curve of the virus. So really, we're calling on government to relook at this and really take into consideration that there's a lot of businesses already that have started retrenching their employees, permanently retrenching their employees because they cannot, continue closed for much longer. But also at the same time, there's also a lot of other businesses that are closing. because of the fact that the domestic travel is not around. And I mean, the mayor also mentioned the fact that we're excited, and naturally so. Even certain surveys that were done around the world and even the country, in terms of when COVID-19 lockdown stops, where is the first holiday destination that you will look at? And most of the surveys show that people want to come to Durban. So we're eagerly anticipating and wanting people to come to our province. And our, the members within this sector are clear that they will do it as safe as possible to make sure that we limit the spread. Another area that I'd just like to bring into your attention as well is that of restaurants, both in the urban areas as well as in the townships. Again, coming back to the balance of livelihoods, lives and livelihoods. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of people that have abused alcohol consumption and have, thus caused a lot of unnecessary issues and concerns, especially during the time of the pandemic. However, when you come and look at this industry of, alcohol and restaurant industry, it employs well over millions of people in our country. And the fact that most of the restaurants are not able to sell on consumption alcohol, it creates a serious problem. Majority of the restaurants are still closed. And when you look at their revenues and get to understand, they say, majority of them, they say, when you look at the profits, 80% of our profits actually come from the sale of alcohol versus the food that we're selling. So it becomes a big challenge. Like I said, it's not just in the urban areas, more so within the township areas where we've got a lot of people that are just not opened because it's not cost effective for them to actually open. And over and above that, having said that, this also brings in a lot of, illegal activities that will come in, where there'll be illegal sales of alcohol and even of cigarettes, for example. So this is just bringing, and there's a lot of work that has been put in. I mean, from last year, we had been in serious engagements with, our city and our province as well, in terms of how do we make sure that we combat illegal trade. And there's a lot of good work that has been put into managing the illegal trade. But however, the longer we're going to be taking to make sure that we open these sectors, the more these illegal traders are going to come in, take advantage, which will, honestly, just collapse the rest of the industry.
Sure.
So the message is really, we would like, some of these things to really be looked at, and we really, really understand the delicate balance that our government is making, but the livelihoods are really, really getting affected. At the same time, even government in terms of revenues and tax collection, for example.
For sure, and which we did see very clearly just last week. And it is such a difficult balance to have or to make. And I'm really happy that I'm not the one who has to make that balance and make these tough decisions. Mr. Temba, just one quick comment on the infrastructure plan that the city has. They're spending around over 480 million rand or so on key infrastructure and catalytic projects that have got the potential to unlock around 10 billion rand in value. Since the private sector did hear of the plan, what has been the appetite to participate in some of these construction developments? What could make it easier for more players and developers to come on board?
Indeed, we talk about 10 billion rands worth of FDI, but what we have not been talking about is the 40 to 45 billion rands worth of projects that are on hold now as a result of the pandemic. So we do have those projects in place, and the funding has been put in place by the local business people. If I'm saying local, I'm talking about South African business people. So we are ready to do business. In terms of the infrastructure, we've been talking to the municipality and the KZN government to say that it's time for the municipality and government to rely more on the private sector in terms of the PPPs when it comes to the provision of these infrastructure projects. We've noted that some of these projects have delayed simply because there are no sufficient funds on the part of the municipalities and the government to show up the development. So we think that the Treasury has got to be involved, and we possibly have to revisit the acts that are governing the funding of infrastructure in order to allow for the private sector to play a meaningful role.
Mr. Mayor, in fact, this question is to you, and it's an acknowledgement that government cannot provide all the solutions to all the problems that we're currently experiencing. We are seeing a lot of people losing their jobs, particularly at the SMME level. How is the municipality engaging with banks and large corporates to unlock their cash surpluses to support businesses?
Definitely, if you look at how we've structured our economic council that will be launching now by end of July, it raises many challenges to the financial sector and many other investors to say, let's work together. Firstly, to create a conducive environment for those who want to invest, but they will need capital to kickstart their businesses. So it's important that we do support those initiatives. But part of the interventions, all the development fees that we've been charging people when they bring about new developments in the city have been put aside during this COVID-19. We are saying they must come on board and they'll enjoy those packages. The filming industry as well with their productions, we've said there will be no charges in that regard. So therefore, we are attracting more investment within the city. And we have also invested a lot to those who are doing business with us, especially those who are renting our premises. We have written off some of the interest. We said they mustn't pay. We have deferred rentals so that we can allow them a space to breathe during this particular period so that they can recoup and come back to their normal operations. So those are the major interventions. But we have also analyzed that part of the delays in our development has been the issue of departments working in silos. We have decided to come up with a concept of a government mall where we'll bring together all the executive authorities that deal with external issues like environmental impact assessments, water use licenses, so that when we take decisions to endorse the developments, all the important authorities are put together to take decision in a very expeditious manner rather than delaying projects that are coming to the city, because we are, of course, competing with other cities. So we want to up our game so that people can see that we mean business in Durban. So when you come and invest with us, you get your things as soon as possible. We have also decided to migrate from the applications in terms of the development and planning of manual applications, but to use online services so that we fast track the processes in the development.
And in fact, unfortunately, we're also racing against time with around 8 minutes or so left for this conversation. And I'd actually like to get some concluding thoughts from the speakers. Mr. Mayor, before coming back to you to wrap up, Palisa, just in around 2 minutes or so, I mean, as we're talking about this recovery from COVID-19 and beyond, a lot has been discussed, a lot is being done, more can be done, but just your concluding remarks on really how to position the city on a best footing when the COVID-19 storm finally blows over.
So really, we would like to, we appreciate what the leadership of the city and the province have shown in terms of engagements with the business community and taking our submissions through to national government. I think this is the only city where the collaboration was so strong with both government and business, and that we were able to do submissions to national through the leadership of the city and the province. We appreciate that, and we're really looking forward to more collaboration. Inputs into the business plan, we would like to see them happening where the business specialists really are able to, the specialists in the different industries are able to make input so that the plans cover the real needs of the businesses there on the ground.
All right. I got you right there. And Moses, on to you. I mean, we did hear from the mayor a little earlier talking about the fact that it's time for talk is over and that the city does really mean business in actioning some of its plans. Final brief thoughts from you on the economic recovery of eThekwini.
The plans are definitely afoot to get the city going. But the one point I want to raise as a parting shot, we did not touch into this one, but it's a point which is very close to my heart, is one of addressing the question of how do we achieve goal congruence and commonality of purpose amongst all social partners. If you focus closely into what is happening into our communities, the social fabric is getting impacted adversely by all sorts of instabilities that we see. We definitely have to begin to create social cohesion and trust so as to create the right foundation for business to thrive and for government to do its business best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Mayor, as we wrap up the discussion, your concluding remarks and perhaps also what Mr. Dembe was talking about, the social trust that we can strengthen to really strengthen the collaboration that has been happening so far in your city between business and government.
Indeed, social compact is the primary objective that you want to achieve so that the civil society, business, as well as other sectors will come together to bring about stability in our city. Our focus now is on COVID-19, but we should also re-engineering our plans and strategies to fight against gender-based violence, which is engulfing our communities. And we must also hasten our fight in relation to crime and grime in the city. We are, of course, planning to put more CCTV cameras with facial recognition, which will also assist the police to recognize and detect the criminals when they arrive to our city. So those are the kind of interventions. But we are one of the cities that has got advantage of having housed more than 150 nationals within the same city, of also embracing our own unity in diversity. So those are the opportunities, accepting and acknowledging the different religions within our city and the beliefs. So that also gives us more leveraging opportunities to ensure that we grow the economy and the growth for the better. And we want to appeal to all of you that Durban is now open for business, even beyond COVID-19. We'll be engaging, attracting more investment in the city, but skills development is part of the priorities of the city, so that we are certain that young people are also participating in the mainstream economy. Women, people with disability, and military veterans are also brought on board. Thank you very much.
One of the areas that you did mention in the plan was plans to accelerate payments to small companies within 7 days, because anyone that does come on board needs to ensure that they are paid, but they are paid on time. Is this happening? And perhaps is there any room for getting payment out to developers and small companies a little bit sooner?
Yes, as a city, we have prepared ourselves to institutionalize this particular resolution. That each and every senior manager within their performance contracts, this is also infused to measure them in terms of what are the turnaround time to pay small businesses, because we need not to suffocate small businesses. They need to grow, and for them to grow, we must pay them on time, ensure that where there are challenges, suppliers as well as enterprise development interventions are brought on board so that we can speedily be responsive to their aspirations. But we want to grow the economy of the city. Informal economy is part of the strategies within the plans that we have presented.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we have come to the end of our discussion today, and I would like to thank the guests, His Worship, the Mayor Councillor Mxolisi Kaunda, Palisa Pili, who is the CEO of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as well as Moses Tembe, the co-chair of the KZN Growth Coalition, for all of their insights and also for providing an update into what the city is doing to ensure relief for its people and for its economy. You would have remembered that at the beginning, a part of the plans outlined was hours and operating a socio-economic relief fund, rather. The city of Durban has injected 40 million rand received from government, and around 350,000 has been contributed from business. So certainly if business has any more to contribute, they should do so, because a lot of people's incomes have been lost as a result of the difficulty on the economy in fighting COVID-19. So those that can contribute to the social relief, please, I'm sure the city of Durban would welcome all the help that they can get. Thank you so much for tuning into the CNBC Africa special. It's good to be with you as always. From myself, Fifi Peters, it's goodbye.
Thank you.